Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It's Tuesday, December 12th. And today I thought we'd talk about sourcing and selling parts. Because we really haven't gone into a lot of it. We've gone into, CV, you're fine. We've gone into, where to source parts to bring them in so that you could put them on customers' machines and stuff like that. But we haven't talked a whole lot about ways to sell parts and even use parts, okay? Stay tuned. All right, so welcome back. So I thought today we would discuss, we know when we're working on stuff and we're trying to run a repair shop, we're usually looking to buy parts, right? At the best price, mark them up a little bit, make a little on it, and make money on the install. Whereas a retail establishment is looking to source parts, have a decent markup if they haven't got a recent repair shop because they're not making money out in the bays, and sell at a profit, right? But then you got a third is you got the guys that are sourcing parts and selling them on the venues on eBay, Amazon, Walmart, Sears. And then you got the fourth group are the guys that are sourcing used parts, or they have their own boneyard and they're shipping machines as they come in and they're selling good quality used parts on the venues, such as the four that I listed. Plus, there's other ones out there, but those are the four major ones that you're going to sell. And I would say the bulk of the used parts are going to be eBay because the quality standards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that Amazon has, and people looking at Walmart are not looking for used parts. They want brand new. So we've talked a lot about, person A, which is most of us, right, to have a repair shop. We try to find the best price we can on the part, bring it in, and then repair our customers' machines, get paid, and it goes out, right? That's the second part is the guy that's got the retail establishment. He's sourcing parts and he's selling more retail to customers. And he makes his money when the customer buys the part locally and leaves, right? So he's trying to find it as cheaply as possible for his customer, right? And then you got the third, which we basically fall into that. And that's the group that basically we're sourcing parts from the venues. We're sourcing parts from distributors and the manufacturers, or the distributors for the manufacturers, right? We're sourcing parts from aftermarket companies. And not only are we running a repair shop where we can bring the part in and mark it up, but we also have a retail space here locally that people can come in and pick up the part, or if we don't have it, we can order it in for them within days. But then there's also our aspect of we do sell on the four main venues. And I was asked in one of the questions, how do you compete trying to sell new parts on the venues with the Chinese sellers and these guys that are buying in bulk and getting discounts? And the answer is it's not as easy as it used to be, but you spend more time trying to find out what other people aren't selling, okay? That's the key. The Chinese their limitation is going to be weight. The heavier the object, they run into problems because they have what they call e-packets for shipping. And they can ship something cheaper from China to me than I can from me to you. Make sense? Absolutely not. But I've always said if you've got that option available, why not, right? So they've got the e-packet that allows them to go up to so much weight. And once they hit that weight, now they're stuck with, they can't cover the cost to ship it to you because it would be too expensive. So the next best thing is, to try to see if they can't ship it by mail, they're going to ship it by container and shipping containers. And they're coming into the ports, Kentucky, California, New York, Jersey, Florida. And if you ever look on these listings, if you start seeing Kentucky, Jersey, California, those are the big main shipping yards where the ships come in and they unload the containers. A lot of times they're not actually there, but that's where they list the port of origin, because if they have to ship it in by container, then that's where it's going to end up. And they've already got in the system, they've got people that are willing, they hired to ship for them, whether it's Chinese folks that are already over here, green cards, what have you, but have set up shop shipping areas where they ship the parts to you from those ports. So when it comes to selling on the venues, to eliminate the Chinese, you have to find heavier weight items and usually a little more expensive stuff, that's harder to get. To combat the guys that you would classify as big buyers, I think they've taken a slam. They aren't making as much money as they used to. They come after me. The guys that are there right now, they come after me. If you're not first and the most. So they saw where they could make money, and a lot of them had, retail local places that they were selling to already. So they just hired somebody to come in and build a website, hired some people to put their catalogs and everything up onto eBay and Amazon. And I've spoke about this before, there's a couple that are still there that would take and actually copy our listings word for word. And we were able to, in our listings, we were able to go in and bulk edit all of our listings. Shade. And with bulk editing, these parts are being sold by Northern New York Parts. Put it in there. So when we were updating our listings and stuff, they were constantly checking our prices and our descriptions and stuff like that. But the people they had doing it were told, copy exactly the same way that they're doing it. And they did, right down to copy and then paste it over on theirs, including these parts are sold by Northern New York Parts. So we were able to, at that point, get a hold of the venue eBay and say, look, they're copying our descriptions. And in the early part, they used to get kind of a hand slapping and an ass chewing. But then eBay was trying to make it an even playing field for everybody. So if you were going to list, a carburetor, you needed to take the SKU number and punch it in, and then eBay would supply the photo and the description. Okay, all you put in was your price, and that hurt the market because for guys like us, we spent a lot of hours building our catalogs. Now we're being told that everybody's got to use the same photo, same title, same description. The only difference is going to be price between sellers and locations. Amazon has since gone that direction as well. But we're not doing as much as we used to, of course, on the venues. But I've seen the venues kind of go downhill quite a bit on what they allow. I mean, on Amazon, if you had 2 late shipments, you got suspended. No questions asked. You didn't have, they had the appeal, but a lot of times they didn't even want to listen to it because they had so many people coming on board every 6 months that wanted to sell on their venue, right? And don't get me wrong, I like Amazon. Matter of fact, I was just doing my Christmas shopping on Amazon. Did I tell you I hate Christmas? No, I'm just kidding. It's crazy for me, because I'm trying to get everything in so I can get it back to whoever. But where they went downhill in my eyes is when they allowed the Chinese. eBay did the same thing. They allowed them onto their venues, but they didn't hold them to the same standards as they did the U.S. sellers. And that was a turning point for us. It's like, no. We were here from the very beginning. We built you. We helped you grow. And then you're going to throw us out with the baby with the bathwater because you're trying to please China because you want their markets too. And look how well that's worked out for them. You see Amazon or eBay selling in China? No. Nope. Not even close. So, who won that battle? China. And now that they're there, a lot of Amazon and eBay good sellers, from the U.S., kind of says, screw you. And they branched off, built their own website, built their own e-commerce at their website, and started selling out from their website instead of using eBay or Amazon. And with the venues, what a lot of people didn't understand was the people that you sold to were not your customers, if that makes any sense. These venues allowed you to peddle your wares on their venue, and with the understanding that they that the people that you were peddling your parts to the customer belonged to that venue, whether it be eBay, Amazon, Sears, or Walmart, okay? And things that they would get you into trouble in a hurry is if they found that you were putting like business cards in or flyers, or postcards saying the next order, if you order off our website instead of eBay, we'll give you 10% off. And the way the venues would do it to try to keep everybody honest, and they didn't, they didn't keep a lot of people honest, was they would spot check. They would have somebody order a package. If they got wind that you were shipping business cards and other material to their customers to pull them away from the venue, you'd be surprised at how many customers would go whine to eBay and Amazon if they see that. So they would have somebody do an order from you, and it would come to them, and they would look at it, and if you got caught with business cards, flyers, what have you, then you would be suspended, if not thrown out on your keister. And the other thing that you had to take into consideration was, especially Amazon. I can remember when I first started selling on Amazon. And when I first started selling on Amazon, it was a college bookstore, basically. When I was going to college, when I finished up a semester, I had a stack of books from the previous semester. And I had to buy more books, right? So Amazon at that point had started this, where you could post the book that you had for sale on their venue. And you could also find books on their venue. There were a couple of different ones out there doing it at that time, but Amazon, was the first that tried to get it up and going. There was a local bookstore close to the campus that did the same thing, that would buy your books at the end of the semester, and they would give you the option of new or used at the beginning of the next semester. But the other thing, as Amazon started to grow, was the difference between Amazon and eBay was eBay did not sell anything, okay? Amazon was a seller. They would buy stuff that they thought the public wanted and resell it. And it wasn't till, down the road that they started allowing certain sellers onto their venues. And, it was strict. You had to adhere to even higher standards than Amazon held itself. And don't get me wrong, this is no slap on Amazon. Amazon has every right to do whatever they want on their venue. But what they would do is, when we sold over there, is if they started seeing a part sell quite a bit for one of us sellers that were on their venue, they would try to figure out where we were sourcing it, and they would create an account with our vendor and start competing directly against us, but at a lower price. Yeah. And when the Chinese came on board, the other issue was, they were having a lot of problems with supply chains, all right? Because they weren't shipping it the same day that the order was coming in, like they were requiring all the rest of us to do. So what they ended up doing with stop with a lot of the Chinese sellers was when they started fulfillment. Both of you. when they started doing, fulfillment, that meant the Chinese would ship the product to one of the Amazon warehouses, and Amazon would take care of the shipping. So it kept to Amazon's standard of it was being shipped quickly because it was already based in their warehouse. So, but I know that even when I was there and when it was, we had already seen the peak and it was starting to come down a little bit. But we had distributors that were selling against their own sellers on eBay, Amazon, Walmart, and Sears. And I can remember telling one of them at one point, I don't know why I wasn't ordering much stuff from them as I used to. I said, because the only thing I can tell you is you never shit where you eat. And the guy's like, excuse me? You need to make a choice. Do you want to sell to your dealers? Or do you want to cut them out of the pie and go direct to the customer? Because you can sell it for a lot less than that dealer is because, we already know what you're charging us as dealers. And then to even sell it at the same. If you're setting up anything where you're supplying the parts to let's say, 3 repair shops. That's your goal, is to sell just to these 3 repair shops. And they've treated you good. They've come to you for all their parts, right? Because why not? You're treating them good. But then what happens when I decide I'm going to open up my own repair shop and we're going to sell the parts and do the repairs for less than the 3 that I'm supplying? How long do you think those 3 are going to be happy with me once they figure out I'm competing in the same markets they are? Not long. They'll find somebody else. And we did. If we couldn't find somebody else, we just dropped that whole segment, that whole market line. We don't need it. We don't want it. And I'm not going to help anyone that isn't trying to help me. Because if you've heard this, you probably have heard this before if you've been watching my videos, is for me, I have to develop a good working relationship, a partnership with my vendors and with my employees and with my customers. It's got to be win-win for everybody, right? But if one of my vendors starts selling directly to my customer, it's not a win-win anymore. He stepped over that kind of line in the sand, the red line. For me, anyways. For some, it didn't matter. But for me, it mattered. And that they became too much, their mindset on more profits, And there probably was some of the distributors' kids saying, look, Dad, we can do this and sell here. Well, go right ahead and do that. See where that gets you. What I can tell you is that greed doesn't get you anywhere. You may think you're winning in the short, but when it comes to the long haul, no. It never works out. Never base anything on greed. Well, we can't stop there because we still have one more kind of seller. And that's the one I call the dismantler. And the dismantler, they're taking machines for whatever reason and they're stripping them down. I know some guys that would take a perfectly good running machine and sell it for parts and get more money out of that machine in parts than they could if they sold it whole. Because Just take a simple hydrostatic transmission on the back of a Husqvarna. That if a man had to go buy a new one or try to fix the one that he's got, it would be a large number, right? But a lot of these dismantlers, a lot of these guys that were selling used parts, were posting them for half the price of new. And so all the customers, all the eBay customers, all the Amazon customers, etc., they had a choice between new and used now. You had to be careful of some sellers. Even the ones that were selling new, you had to be careful. You know, not everybody's going to be honest. That's life, right? But for those guys that were selling used, they ran into this probably more than we did. And that was people swapping out your part for their part, saying it didn't work or defective or this or that, and then sending you back their old part. And the only thing that helped us is we had such a stellar rating on the venues that when we said something, it was taken as fact. I mean, like a PTO clutch. If you send me back your old PTO clutch and you can see it's worn out, we're going to take a picture of it once it comes back, and we're going to shoot it over to the people that kind of do watchdog over the venues. And a lot of times, most of the time, we would be credited back our monies, and that seller would, or that buyer would get a strike against them. The hard part was when you were selling used. And that was you were at the mercy of the customer. If you shipped a used hydrostatic transmission to a person, hopefully you're dealing with someone that's honest, okay, on the other end, because there are dishonest buyers too. And hope like heck they don't ship you back their old one, saying that this wasn't usable. And I always encourage, because I had a few friends that did that, I said, you need to put a seller's mark on it somewhere. You know, whether it's the mark that you can't see unless it's ultraviolet, or if it's simply taking the punch and punching like the letter E on every aluminum housing that went out for the hydrostatic transmission, something that you could show that, like eBay, this is on all mine, and this one come back and it doesn't have it on it. That's not mine. But I know a lot of guys to this day that are still selling on the venues and are doing well, selling used parts. And what I've seen also is a lot of those guys that were selling used parts that had built up catalogs and inventory, and they knew exactly what they had for inventory. Their next step was building their own website and then offering salvaged parts to buyers. And those guys are willing to give a guarantee on their parts. Like I say, a lot of them are selling parts from not brand new, but a good running machine, you know. They're not taking and having a blown engine and trying to sell off all the parts internal on that engine, because you're not sure what was the fault. Was it the rings let loose? Was it the connecting rod broke? Was it? So hopefully that's helped some of you guys today. I'm going to wrap it up, but you know, there is another aspect that we haven't covered, and that is, you know, selling on the venues. and it can be lucrative. You just gotta follow the rules and do your due diligence, mark your parts before they leave, and have pictures so that you can show the venues, this is our mark. It's not on this. And if you do a stellar job, you answer the questions, you do everything that the venues expect you to do, then your feedback is going to reflect that. There are going to be times when you have to eat it. That's part of, business. But can you still make money on the venues? Yes, but you have to be smart. So on that note, you guys have a great Tuesday, and I gotta start getting ready for work. All right, thanks so much for watching.